The kingdom of Saba was an ancient civilization in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula, in present-day Yemen. It is renowned for its wealth, incense trade, and for being mentioned in religious texts like the Bible, the Quran, and ancient Ethiopian records. The kingdom of Saba rose around the 12th century BC, prospering in southern Arabia due to a strategic position on the Middle East Red Sea route. The region was abundant in natural resources, especially frankincense and myrrh, highly valued in the ancient world for both religious and medicinal purposes. The Sabaeans, as the older inhabitants of the kingdom of Saba are known, developed advanced agricultural methods, including the use of complex irrigation systems, such as the famous Marib Dam. This reservoir supplied water to the dry lands and was essential to the kingdom's prosperity. Saba was ruled by kings and queens, bearing titles such as Mukarib, which meant both king and priest. The rule was theocratic, blending political religious authority. Sabaean society was divided into clans and tribes with a well-defined hierarchical structure. It had a ruling elite, wealthy merchants, and workers who tilled the land and looked after the caravans. The kingdom of Saba developed into one of the most important long-distance trade centers. Saba's frankincense and myrrh were prized by the Egyptians, used in religious rituals, mummifications, and ceremonies to worship the gods. Sabaean caravans often took their products to the Red Sea coast, where they were shipped to Egypt. Sabaean ports, like those on the coast of present-day Yemen, provided a direct connection to Egyptian cities like Thebes and Alexandria. Egyptian accounts speak of trade with lands to the south, which included Saba, referring to the region as the land of Punt. Assyrian entries mention tributes from Arabs, including Sabaean products such as spices, gold, and incense. Known for its intricate religious practices, Babylon consumed vast quantities of incense in its temples, supplied by trade with the Sabaeans. Their caravans crossed the Arabian desert, passing through major oases such as Dedan, connecting Saba to the Mesopotamian city-states. Saba enjoyed a dynamic trade with India, swapping incense and myrrh for spices, fine fabrics, precious stones, and ivory. Sabaean navigators mastered the Indian Ocean routes, using the monsoon winds to cross the Indian coast. Indian products and concepts, such as printed fabrics and religious influences, reached the Arabian Peninsula because of these commercial exchanges. Saba established close relations with the kingdom of Aksum in today's northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. This was made easier by their geographical proximity, separated by the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Products traded include gold, exotic animals, and African ivory, in exchange for incense, fabrics, and Sabaean metals. Sabaean architecture influenced Aksum buildings, and the two cultures shared religious and linguistic practices. The legend of the Queen of Sheba also hints at a symbolic and political connection between both kingdoms. The legend of the Queen of Sheba ranks among the most fascinating stories about antiquity, mixing mythology, religion, and politics. This eerie figure, known as Makeda in Ethiopian tradition and Bilqis in the Quran, is quoted in biblical, Islamic, and Ethiopian texts, with regional adaptations that embellish her narrative. The legend opens with King Solomon, the wise and powerful monarch of Israel, whose reputation as a righteous ruler and holder of great wisdom spread to all known lands. The Queen of Sheba heard about Solomon from merchants who praised his divine wisdom and unrivaled wealth. She became curious and skeptical, but decided to visit him. Some reports say that she wished to challenge Solomon with riddles to test his wisdom, whereas others suggest that she was looking to establish a business alliance or obtain political and spiritual advice. The journey of the Queen of Sheba to Jerusalem is depicted as monumental. She arranged a large caravan loaded with sumptuous gifts, including gold, rare spices, precious stones, and incense. This demonstration of power and wealth was not only a diplomatic gesture, but also an affirmation of her position as ruler of one of the most prosperous kingdoms in the world. The journey was challenging and lengthy, passing through deserts and mountains, but finally the queen arrived at Solomon's palace. Upon her arrival, the Queen of Sheba was welcomed with great honor. Solomon's palace was splendid, with polished glass floors reflecting light like water. In one well-known story, when the queen entered the palace, she mistook the floor for a lake and raised her robe, revealing her ankles. This represented her admiration for the king's power and ingenuity. While she was there, she tested Solomon with difficult enigmas and questions. Solomon answered them all with clarity, deeply impressing the queen, according to the Bible. In the Quran, it is said that Solomon resorted to divine magic to impress her. In Ethiopian tradition, she described in the sacred text Kebra Nagast the relation between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba extended beyond diplomacy. After several intellectual discussions, Solomon was captivated by the queen's intelligence and beauty. This version suggests that they spent a night together before his departure. Makeda later discovers that she is pregnant, and, returning to her kingdom, she gives birth to a son called Menelik I. Once Menelik grew up, he traveled to Jerusalem to meet his father. Solomon welcomed him with joy, and, according to legend, sent him back to Saba with the Ark of the Covenant, which was allegedly taken to Aksum in Ethiopia. This event is essential in Ethiopian tradition, as Menelik is considered the founder of the Solomonic dynasty, which would rule Ethiopia for centuries. While the historicity of the Queen of Sheba is debated, the story reflects the commercial and cultural relations between Sheba and the Near Eastern kingdoms. The Sabaeans were polytheists, worshipping divinities such as the moon and fertility god Amakwa, the war deity Athar, and the sun goddess Shams, who symbolized light and justice. Their temples were worship places and administrative facilities. The Sabaeans were also known for their architectural monumentality. For example, the Temple of the Almakwa was a particularly important religious and political center. The Sabaean script, founded on a Semitic alphabet, served to document political, economic, and religious events in massive inscriptions, many of which have been found in archaeological ruins. The collapse of Saba began towards the end of the first millennium BC. This was brought about by factors such as the changing trade routes, which favored the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, and the deterioration of the irrigation system. By the 6th century of the Common Era, the destruction of the dam, brought by negligence and possible natural disasters, dealt a fatal blow to Saba's agricultural economy. The Himyar Kingdom, a neighboring state, eventually absorbed Saba around the 3rd century CE, marking the end of the kingdom's independence. While the kingdom of Saba had disappeared, its influence lingers on in several cultures and traditions. In present-day Yemen, many of the Marib ruins and other archaeological sites are still being excavated. Its wealth and sophistication continue to inspire scholars and fuel legends in the popular imagination.